Good evening, everyone. I'm Jim Molinelli, the Remodeling Professor. Thank you for joining me tonight. I help homeowners to remodel with confidence. Welcome to Remodeling Professor Presents, a weekly remodeling seminar that I teach live each Tuesday night with edited videos posted on my YouTube channel following. Tonight's topic, Kitchen Design Part 2, Think Spatially. In Kitchen Design Part 1, we reviewed a number of items that you really need to identify and select and choose in advance of doing anything to contact folks regarding your remodel. So if you're doing a kitchen, these are things that you must make up your mind about and have a good idea about in advance before you lift the finger, before you lift the phone, before you reach out to any professionals of any type. And the reason is because the items that we talked about will help you to communicate your vision and help your designer, your architect, your remodeler to understand what it is that you're doing. So let's take one moment and look back at what we covered. So the must-know items prior to remodeling your kitchen include these. And by the way, as it says at the bottom, you can always go back and watch the seminar for Design Part 1 if you have any question or doubt about these items. So what we have to do is make up your mind about the method of cooking, the rest of the major appliances that you plan to use in your new kitchen, the type of in-kitchen eating. Will it be at a table? Will it be at the island or peninsula? Will you even have an island or peninsula? These are pieces of information that are invaluable to whoever's going to help you, which is why you need to know them in advance. Then there's a little bit of cabinet information we covered. You do not need to go shopping for cabinets and choose your cabinets, and you don't need to marry yourself to a particular line or style or size or brand. But there is some cabinet information that is very valuable to your designer in advance, so that was covered. Also, the type and number of sinks that you'll be having in your kitchen, and then the countertop and flooring materials. So all of this is stuff that we discovered and discussed and covered in Kitchen Design Part 1. Tonight, we're going to move on. Now, many of you may have seen this analogy, the jar of life. The big stuff, the first thing that you put in your jar of life are things that are very critically important to your happiness and well-being, your family, your relationships, your health. Because if you put those in and you take care of those first, there's room for everything else. What's the everything else? The next step is the important stuff, the house, the car, the job. And you see, because there is lots of room left in the jar, these pebbles and stones fit nicely in between the great big things which you've already taken care of. And then the third step in the jar of life story is the sand. The sand is everything else, the tiny little details and little stuff that we often get caught up in. And the moral of this is that if you put the sand or the pebbles and rocks in first, there isn't room for the big important things. And that's really where we're going tonight. I want to make sure that when you design your kitchen, you're covering the important things first, the big things first, and we're getting them out of the way. So here are the things that are most important to consider when you design any kitchen. The first one, doors and doorways. Generally speaking, these are a given. What they do is they tell you where people will enter and exit the room. And generally speaking, we don't move them or eliminate them unless the entire wall they are in is being removed or moved as part of the remodeling work, which is an important piece of information. Along with doors, windows. It's very difficult to resize a window. If you want to make it a little bit smaller or move it a little bit to the left or a little bit to the right, that's extremely expensive. If you want to close an existing window, that too is very expensive because it requires siding and trim on the exterior of the home. and it's not just the cost of the window or a little bit of framing involved. On the other hand, if you want to add a window or enlarge a window, generally that's very easy to do and not extensively costly. But together, doors and windows tell you where the people are coming and going and where the light and the fresh air is coming from. So those are important. And then the walls. The walls of your room, your kitchen, determine how much stuff will fit in the room. Nothing else is as important as these three factors. They tell us how people are going to move in and out of the room and through the room. They tell us where the light is coming from, and the windows are generally considered immobile. And then the walls. Unless you're going to remove one and enlarge your kitchen, the walls are a huge determinant in what we can do, what else can be done. So you start with these few items and you make sure that you get these squared away, and now we can get into some of the real fun and important items. This set of information that we just covered tells me a great deal about what can and can't happen in the space before I ever know what your needs and desires are. Many things that homeowners are interested in for their kitchen remodels are very easy to deliver in a kitchen. And I guess we can look back now at the jar of life analogy that I gave you. The jar is the four walls of your kitchen. And the little things are the color of the cabinets, the type of countertop, the type of flooring, the paint color, the wallpaper, the backsplash. Those are small matters and small details, and no matter what you select and what you choose, those will fit easily into any kitchen remodel. But the things that we have to worry about are the really big things. And I call these things the space hogs for obvious reasons. Clearly, they do take up a lot of space in the kitchen, but they also require very clear areas all the way around them so that they can be used properly and you can walk to them or walk by them without people running into one another. So what am I talking about? What are the space hogs in a kitchen? The biggest space hog is table and chairs. There's nothing in a kitchen that takes more floor space out of the room than the table and chairs. So if you can possibly do without a table and chairs in your kitchen, there's a lot more room for other features. The next one, islands, and the next one is like it, which is peninsulas. Islands and peninsulas stick out from the wall and are usually of the same style or type of cabinetry, even if you've changed woods or colors. They're a similar top to what you have in the rest of the room. But the problem with islands and peninsulas, they take a lot of floor space. And people want islands all the time. And in many small kitchens, you just cannot fit an island. We're going to show you tonight exactly what it takes to get an island in so that you understand why you can or why you cannot have an island. Okay? What's next on the Space Hogs list? Pantry closets. These take a great deal of space, and it may be smarter to do pantry cabinetry or a reach-in closet instead of a large walk-in pantry closet. I understand that these are things that you have wanted. These are things that you have desired. You've seen them and you fell in love with them perhaps, but not all kitchens can hold these items. These are very large, very complex items, and if you put them in first, they could steal space from very important things later. Next, refrigerators and freezers. Now, we all know that we need a refrigerator freezer, but if you're having a refrigerator and a freezer, or if you're having an oversized refrigerator freezer, that requires extra space, and you need to designate how much space that will take in the floor plan. It steals floor space. The next item, oversized ranges and cooktops. Now, a standard range is 30 or 36 inches, and it has 4, 5, or 6 burners. But when you go beyond that into some of the modern and industrial ranges or cooktops, they get very, very large. Also, if you have a cooktop with a separate set of wall ovens, that is a space thief too, because it takes a lot more space than a standard range. So that's why it's very important for me to know about these things in advance. And any designer, any architect will tell you the same thing. And the other thing I want you to always be aware of, which steals space from your kitchen, is walkways. There are no hallways in kitchens, but they are implied. There are places where people will walk, and you have to allow enough room for them to do that in order for your kitchen to function properly. So now let's take a look at how these kinds of items affect the actual layout of a kitchen. Again, these space hogs, the ones that you're going to end up with, the ones that you absolutely have to have, must be placed first in every kitchen design. All the rest of the items, the other features, will fit generally very easily. So the countertop material, the level or quality of the cabinets, they don't affect the layout of your kitchen. They affect the cost of your kitchen. Okay? Flooring type, paint color, lighting, those don't affect the layout. They affect the overall look of your finished kitchen. But they are not generally considered until much later, once all of these items that are on the Space Hogs list are already handled and taken care of. The Space Hogs need to be understood in terms of how much space they require, how much space they take up, and whether or not they will actually fit and work in your new kitchen. Now again, I understand that if you are about to remodel a kitchen, you want an island. But in most 1990 or earlier homes, islands just don't fit in the original space that was allotted to the kitchen, unless you're removing the eat-in table or you're taking a wall out and expanding your kitchen. A 10, 11, or a 12-foot wide kitchen simply cannot have a large island with seating. It just does not fit. And I know nobody wants to hear this, but you need to be aware of it so that if you want a kitchen that truly functions and offers convenience each and every day, dropping the island in a small room is the way to get there. This is because that in addition to the space that they physically take up, they take up extra space around all four sides for either sitting, standing, or walking. You see, cabinets and islands and tables, all the Space Hogs require excess space near them. And what you see here is a representation of that. I'm showing you a simple little round four-seater table, but the box that's shaded around it illustrates that you need to allow 24 inches from the edge of that table in every direction so that you can have somebody walk around it, pull a chair out, and sit down. If you don't have that much space around every table or more, then you don't have enough space for an operational table. The same is true with your cabinetry. Notice this shaded area. In front of every cabinet in your kitchen, you need to designate 24 inches of clear, free space so that there is enough room for somebody to stand and work at each work location in the kitchen. Now, the next thing that you have to understand, as it says, they may not overlap. If these two spaces bump into each other, that's as close as they can get. If you get closer than 48 inches between a table and a countertop, or an island and a countertop, or a set of cabinets over here and a set of cabinets over here, it's too close. The kitchen will not work. And it's important that you respect these dimensions so that when you put your kitchen together, it will suit you and your family for years to come. Now, I mentioned 48 inches. Why is that? Well, the primary reason that we require that much space in a kitchen is the size of human beings. Oh, let's stop for one moment and let's go back. Remember I said doorways indicate where people will walk? The easiest way to walk between doorways is a straight line. But when you put an obstacle in the way, that means people will have to go out and around that obstacle. And you don't want them infringing on your workspace. So you have to be aware of how people move through the room. And here's another example. In a galley kitchen, you have an individual facing one way at a workstation and an individual facing the other way at a workstation. you require the 48 inches between surfaces so that two people can coexist, pass each other in the kitchen, and work together without clunking together. Now, again, the reason that we require the 48-inch ideal distance between cabinets and islands, or cabinets and other cabinets, is because of the size of a human being. If you look at the average male adult from outside shoulder to outside shoulder, it's 20.5 inches. If you look from outside of hand to outside of hand, it's 2.5 times 2, which is 5 inches. That's 21, 20, 5.5, 21, 22 inches. And if you give an inch on either side, that's 24. And that's where we come up with the magic number for kitchens, so that a human can work in the kitchen and walk past another human working in the kitchen without having to dance. Now, keep in mind that in kitchens also, if the dishwasher's open, if the oven is open, if the refrigerator is open, if you're bending down to get something out of a drawer, having this minimum distance of 48 inches between cabinets and islands, between cabinets and cabinets, between cabinets and tables, allows you to work comfortably in your kitchen without conflict. So here is a kitchen with an island that is shown. And here you see the 2-foot zone that it was required for the L-shaped kitchen cabinetry, and the 2-foot zone that occurs all the way around the island on each side. That's how much space is required by the island. Now, in this particular size kitchen, I'm showing you the minimum width to get a double island into the kitchen. The minimum width is a set of cabinetry on one wall, the 48 inches of clearance that we've been talking about, 2 double cabinets back to back, which is another 48 inches, and then a minimum of 36 inches, which defines the width of a walking hallway. So even though this is a kitchen, this is an implied hallway. Remember, I said hallways and walkways take space. But let's think about this for a minute. Again, 13 feet. Most of us don't have 13 feet of width in our kitchen, which is why we cannot have this island. It's that simple. Now, in this kitchen, this is where you want people to walk, but it's not the comfortable place to walk. The comfortable place to walk is here, which is not ideal because it conflicts with the workspace both in the L shape and at this side of the island. So even though this island fits, it's not an ideal placement because the primary circulation through the room will take place this way. And you must consider these things if you're going to design a kitchen where you can work without kids, family, and guests and visitors interfering as you're doing your work in the kitchen. Here is a very tight, small kitchen. They insisted on an island. And even though I've been harping on the number 48 inches, you can drop to 45 and still make it work, which is what they did in this particular instance. 45 inches here, 45 inches here. So that all works well. There's enough room for 2 adults in this area. There's empty space in front of the refrigerator, so that's not a problem. The table has been pushed all the way to the side. Here are the problem areas. There's not quite 48 inches between the table and the island, which means with somebody sitting here, this is going to get tight. Or if somebody stands here and somebody sits here, it's impossible to get through. The second dimension that's too small is this one. That's only 32 inches to walk between this wall and that side of the island. It's not enough. And if a guest stands here to chat with you, it blocks the entire kitchen access to the refrigerator, to the table, and beyond. So there will be problems in this kitchen, although the work area is clear. Here's an example of what you will see if you go to many designers and contractors. They'll show you this kitchen plan and say you can have this marvelous kitchen. It's got a working L, it's got a great big island with seating for 5, it's got your refrigerator and your other items over here, and all your openings at the far end of the room. And you'll go, great, that's exactly what I want. but I want you to stop and diagnose where all the problems are here, and there are several. The first one, and the obvious one, is this. They've allowed only 2 feet 8 inches between the countertop and the island, and we've just discussed that it must be 45 to 48 inches for 2 people to work there. So there's clearly not enough room in here for any more than 1 person. And there are not many homes that are going to build a kitchen this big and expensive for a single occupant. And if you ever sold it, the next family that was going to move in would say, that's too small. We can't work in there. We can't even have our kids in that kitchen. So that's an impossibly small kitchen. And if you move this island and seating area farther away to make that 45 to 48 inches, they're right in the middle of this implied hallway. So the second problem with this kitchen is the implied hallway. You're asking people to walk from these openings right past the chairs of the island and in front of the refrigerator and other cabinetry to get out of the room. That's going to be very difficult. When people are sitting on these stools, there's almost no room to get by. And the third problem is in that same location, and that is when this refrigerator door opens, there's not enough room to open the door or stand at the door and get in and out of the refrigerator without asking people to move and sliding the stool out of the way. So if we move the island to make this big enough, we're making this worse. So what you've learned is the island doesn't fit. It's a simple mathematics whether or not an island fits in your kitchen. And if you go to somebody and say, I want an island, I will not do the kitchen if I can't have an island, they'll find a way to cram it in, and you'll be unhappy for the next 15 or 20 years. Stick to the 45 and 48 inch minimums. You see, they don't even have that here on this side. They have 40 inches, so they're short coming up between these cabinets and this edge of the island. So this plan fails miserably. And the thing is, if you don't understand these rules of thumb and you don't watch for them, then you could get suckered in by somebody who provides you a plan that looks big enough but isn't. And there's one other factor I'd like you to notice, and that is that the width of a human being dictates that a stool or the designated sitting space at an island is 24 inches for a person. So here we have 24 inches, 24 inches, 24 inches, that's fine. But what happens when you go this way is you don't have enough. And that overflows, which means that chair or this chair will always be past the corner of the island. This is not a full 2 cabinet island. This is an overhang seating island. And so they really can't even fit 2 people side by side. So it's not a 5-person seating island. If you tried that, you'd be clunking against one another all the time. This is a 4-person island at most. So it's a poor layout. And you wouldn't know that if you didn't listen to this session and pay attention to the size and space that's required in your kitchen for cabinetry, for islands, for peninsulas, for appliances like the refrigerator. These are the space hogs. We must respect those. And another one is when we're sitting at an island that you must have 15 to 18 inches of overhang for that to be a comfortable sitting space. Why? Because most people will make these anywhere from 8 to 10 or 12 inches. That's not enough. You will never find a comfortable way to sit if that's less than 15. And that's because the distance from the front of your chest to the wall underneath the cabinet is 15 to 18 inches. That's the size of a human being from the tip of his toe to the front of his torso. And if you're any further away than that, you're going to feel uncomfortable. You are not going to sit close enough to that edge of the counter that you can eat food that's here comfortably. It's the same difference between pulling your chair all the way into the table when you sit and eat and trying to keep it an extra foot away from the table. You have to lean over and bend over in order to eat when you sit at a counter. It's one reason why so many people do not like eating at many bars, because bar tops often only hang over 12 inches or so, sometimes less. And it's not enough to get your feet in, to get your knees and legs in, and to sit comfortably close to the counter so that you're eating vertically. So please, if you do have seating at an island or peninsula, make sure the overhang is at least in this range of 15 to 18 inches so that you can eat comfortably. So those are the big keys for tonight's Think Spatially presentation. I appreciate you coming. My name is Jim Molinelli. I am the Remodeling Professor. I hope that you've picked up a great deal of information from tonight's webinar. I do these each and every Tuesday night, and I hope you'll join me for another one. Each night after the seminar is over, I edit the video and I will post it on my YouTube channel. If you go to jimmolinelli.com/RPP, Remodeling Professor Presents, RPP, the seminars page, you'll find links to all the past seminars as well as a list of the ones that are upcoming. Notes for tonight's seminar are also available at jimmolinelli.com/RPP, the seminars page on my website. You can download those notes with no charge and take away everything that you've heard tonight in printout form. So real good information there. If you are planning a kitchen remodel and you feel that you need some help, you can always sign up for Ask Me Anything Q&A calls with me directly, or my online remodeling course, Remodeling Success Blueprint. And both of those can be found at jimmolinelli.com as well. So thanks for watching tonight. I'll see you next time on the Remodeling Professor Presents. And remember, remodel with confidence.